much. I'm really impressed. Being humoristic and smiling while telling quite sad stories, that gives me hope. I think you are probably the right person in the right place. And you were also mentioning young people living in Tibet, and they have never experienced a free Tibet. I've seen you mentioning that in interviews, and what hopes do you have for young generations of Tibetans? What do you think they may do to improve the situation? Young people in Tibet and also young Tibetans living outside Tibet. So while you answer this question, it's possible for you in the audience to give me a sign, and I'll put down your name. You will have the possibility to ask questions or comments on this. So please.
Yes, Tibetans who have not seen Tibet, and I happen to be one as well, because I was born and brought up in exile, and I have not seen Tibet. In 2005, I went to China. I was allowed, because I was at that time at Harvard Law School. I was allowed to go to Beijing. And then I also went to the Wudaishan and 5 mountain peaks. It's a Buddhist pilgrimage site. And when I was in Beijing, and I told Chinese authorities to allow me to go to Tibet, and they said, we don't have enough people to receive you in Lhasa. And I said, you have 1.3 billion people, and that will be the last problem you will have as far as my trip to Lhasa is concerned. And he said, no. Then in fact I have a personal reason actually, because my father had passed away in 2004. And that was the summer of 2005. And I said, this is my 1-year anniversary of my late father's passing away. And for any Tibetan to go to Lhasa, to visit Chokhang Temple, the holy shrine, and Potala Palace, and offer a butter lamp, a candle, in remembrance of my late father is very important to me. And that bureaucrat gave the same answer. We don't have enough people to receive you in Lhasa. That time I realized that I was really talking to a wall. That time I realized that no matter what I say, that person is going to respond to me as per the instruction. It really doesn't matter. That's how the system works. That was the challenge I was facing. So inside Tibet also, now this is the 3rd generation of Tibetans. Chinese army came to Tibet in 1950. Now we are in 2004, 64 years. Now almost all Tibetan leaders in Tibet, they were born and brought up under occupation. So they don't have memory of independent and free Tibet. Similar in exile as well. We don't have memory of independent free Tibet or experience of it. So, but nonetheless, I take great pride in being a Tibetan, born as a Tibetan. Even though, yes, you are without status, but nonetheless, Tibet is a great civilization. It has rich culture, tradition, and it has rich history, and Tibetans are very proud that way. Maybe, I don't know whether as proud as the Vikings, maybe equally proud. Very proud. So I just feel, and I know for sure, when I applied to Harvard Law School, in my application I'd say the same thing. I want to serve Tibetan people, hence I want to seek admission in your school. And I said, by getting admission, it will mean a lot to me, because I said I want to die without regrets. In a sense, I want to die without thinking, oh, I could have done this for Tibet or done that for Tibet. Hence, I want to seek admission in your school. But I also wrote, whether you give me admission or not, I will die without regrets. That much I know. So as a Tibetan, I'm proud to be born a Tibetan, and I'll proudly die as Tibetan. While I live, I'll do something for Tibet. That's, I think, what Tibetans inside Tibet think. That's what Tibetans outside Tibet think. Now, I'll give you myself as an example, and my friend Sam is also here, who's our representative. Now, I was happily, as I said, employed at Harvard Law School, with central heating, all that. When I got elected in 2011, I left US and went to India, and the salary I was given was, and still is maybe 350 some euro a month. I'm sure my salary is, I think, what you ate for breakfast this morning, every day. Now, why I took this pay cut from Harvard Law School pay to Dharamsala pay. Not just me, my colleagues, they have left Canada. Sam has left Canada from a high-paying corporate job to come to Dharamsala. One closes his shop, comes to Dharamsala. One is a Columbia University graduate, comes to Dharamsala. Because this is a labor of love. So the new generation of Tibetans, again, we all are contributing on our own ways. So it's not a sacrifice. Compared to Tibetans inside Tibet, our contribution pales in comparison to what they are going through. But nonetheless, the new generation of Tibetans, we, the new generation of Tibetans, are contributing our own ways. That's why we see ourselves having a bright future. That's why we see ourselves having a chance, having a shot at making this world a better place. So this is what the new generation of Tibetans think, and then the new generation of Tibetans will be far better educated, far better exposure than the other generation. But as long as we maintain the values, our traditional values and traditional belief, we will be only stronger as we move forward. Thank you.
Yes, there's a question here from Hvilke. Ja, du kan stå der.
Can I introduce myself?
Yeah, you can.
My name is Kjetil Kjenseth. I'm the leader of the Friendship Committee of Tibet in the Parliament.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for visiting us and giving us this speech. You said your mission is both so simple and so difficult. I have to ask you about one of the difficulties, about the 130 people self-burning cases in Tibet. And you said that you don't have they maybe don't know you as a prime minister. And of course this says something about the situation in Tibet, but also for us in Norway, as basic human rights and the media and free speech, it is our normal. I asked Dalai Lama if this difficult question, if you had not told your people not to do this hard way of speaking to the world, what do you say about this? Have you any possibilities to say to your people that don't use this hard way of speaking?
Yes, shall I just repeat it? Everybody heard. It's the question about this very difficult issue of self-immolation, and the question here, how can you prevent people doing such dramatic response to the repressions in Tibet? And he had asked Dalai Lama the same question here, and he's now asking you this question.
Yes, this is a difficult question, but I think our stand has been very clear and consistent. Let me go way back to 2008 as well, before even I was a candidate in election. From the very beginning, my stand has been very clear. In 2008, I said it publicly and also gave in writing. As far as we are concerned in exile, I cannot even encourage Tibet inside Tibet to protest, because the consequences are very harsh. As I said, once you protest, you get arrested, tortured, and die. In that circumstances, how can I even encourage protest inside Tibet? So that's why I refrain from urging Tibet inside Tibet to protest. Similarly, on self-immolation, I have been consistent and categorical in urging Tibetans inside Tibet not to resort to any drastic actions, including self-immolation. And I've said this in Tibetan language and all through statements, official statements and media, Tibetans inside Tibet not to resort to self-immolation. That I have urged very clearly and categorically. Because as a human being, life is precious. We all should live and see the day of freedom. That I've been very clear. So you will find plenty, you can Google me, you can find all my quotes on this. In fact, I was criticized by some section of Tibetans for coming up so openly, because many think that what Tibetans are doing inside Tibet is their choice. We in exile, our responsibility is to support how they do it and and what they say they want. There, I think I've been very clear. Now, the universal slogan of self-immolators and all the inside Tibetans are, they want to see the return of His Holiness Dalai Lama to Tibet and freedom for Tibetans. This aspiration I support, because this is the aspirations of all the Tibetans inside Tibet and outside Tibet. So that's why my job is to highlight why they're committing self-immolation and also highlight their aspirations so that people outside, including Norway, know that this is what they want. So that's why I was trying to explain to you the genesis of self-immolation. Self-immolation for Tibetans is a form of protest. Going out in the street is one protest, but the consequences is death when you go out in the streets. So hence Tibetans resort in self-immolation. Again, in all fairness, I must also say that of the 130 self-immolators, none of them, not even a single one, has harmed either a Chinese person or a Chinese property. Even at that stage of one being burning oneself, there are many Chinese in the streets, there are many Chinese shops, even bicycles, but not even a single Tibetan has harmed Chinese person or a property. Even at that state of pain, you can clearly see restraint on themselves, not to harm a Chinese person or property. So this is a very difficult question, even within the Tibetan community, and especially for Tibetans in exile. So what I've said is that self-immolators have not met me. I don't know whether they know me or not. I'm sure many Tibetans in Tibet know me, but the fact that they have not met me. So there I'm trying to make the case the Chinese government says, oh, we are behind this. But we categorically have discouraged it, and they have not even met me, so there is no basis to the allegation. Thank you.
Welcome. There's a question over there. Yeah, you go.
My name is Jan Vitor. I'm the pastor of Oslo Church here in Oslo. I really appreciate your great introduction, Mr. Prime Minister, and also that Civitas has hosted this meeting. And I'm a lover of the Tibetan people, and I enjoy the Tibetan Buddhist temple in southern Oslo and the religious freedom that the Tibetans have among us. However, many years ago, we had missionaries in Tibet before the Chinese rule, and there was conflicting reports of the degree of religious freedom that was enjoyed among Tibetans in Tibet. And nowadays, there are quite a few converts, Tibetan converts around the world, even here in Oslo, who long to go back to Tibet and enjoy the new kind of Tibet that you have described. But do you see, Mr. Prime Minister, that there has been an evolution of the view to plurality and the respect of human rights, even within, among Tibetans? Because now the focus is on how the Chinese are suppressing the Tibetans, but there has been some precedents which has been reiterated to me by Tibetans, even living in Oslo, that they fear what will happen to them in the free Tibet that I personally hope will come.
Yes, this is a question about Tibetans in Tibet and religious freedom.
Thank you very much for the question, and do pray for Tibetans and really appreciate your support. As far as Tibetans, historically speaking, yes, there was the missionaries who have been to Tibet. If you read their diary, some of the historical evidence are provided by the missionaries, mainly from the US actually. There were some churches in the periphery of Tibet, and some converts as well. And then as far as religious freedom in Tibet is concerned, Tibet was a tolerant country. For example, Muslims also have their own mosques in Lhasa, even during the 13th Dalai Lama's time. So there were Kashmiris from Kashmir who used to go to Tibet to do business, but they follow their own religion. But now we call them Pebakaje, Tibetan Muslims. They speak Tibetan, they wear Tibetan dress, but their religion is Muslim. So they are still in Kashmir. And His Holiness visited them last year. And the Tibetan Muslims are supposed to speak very good Tibetan, better Tibetan than us. Their food is delicious. So we all like to go to, His Holiness always say, I'm going to Srinagar to meet Tibetan Muslims, so I'll have good sumptuous food. So, and then the fact that there was a mosque and there was church or churches in the periphery of Tibet is an accepted fact. I really don't see in future Tibet there being a denial of religious freedom to anyone. As for myself, I went to, even though I went up to class 10, that's sophomore, in Tibet refugee school, 11 and 12, junior and senior year, I went to St. Joseph College. As you can see, it was a Catholic missionary college in India. And then my wife went to St. Joseph Convent. So I'm quite used to, doing prayer in evenings, things like that as well. So I think tolerance of religious freedom is very much accepted. I really don't see any problem as such. I have many friends, who follow different interests. But then I must also say, Tibetans are very difficult to convert as well. Because one day I met this, what we call sister, Catholic sister, in a car in India, and she was saying, you know John, you know Mary, Edward, and all that. She was giving some names, and I said, I have no idea. She was saying they are very senior officials in your administration. They work for His Holiness Dalai Lama, and she was so certain of these people, and I had no clue. And I said, absolutely not, you're wrong. But she was so certain. They were my students. And finally, when I went to Dharamsala, I started talking. I met this, lady. She was so sure. There are people walking around Dalai Lama who are called John and all this, And then finally, they said, yeah, I was John when I was in Mount Urban in school. I said, how come you are no more John? I said, yeah, I was given the name, and I did all that. Now I'm a Tibetan, I'm very much Buddhist, So Tibetans are that way. I think tolerant of all religion, but I think they are quite, in that sense, quite proud and deeply rooted as well. Having said that, yes, I have met some representation from different churches who come to Dharamsala who says these issues, there are some Christians and there are some Muslims and there. But I said, yeah, we tolerate all. But having said that, there will be some uneasiness, it's expected when new things come. But broadly, I think it's tolerated.
Thank you. There's another question over here.
My name is Svein Wilhelmsen. I'm from Base Camp Explorer. And let me express that we have had great honor of supporting some projects in Dharamsala for many years. And I'm deeply impressed with what you achieve with very, very limited means. I'm talking about Voice of Tibet and TC. So Mr. Prime Minister, thanks a lot for shedding light on the huge suffering of the Tibetans. And my first question is, nevertheless, on that background, during the audience here in Oslo, His Holiness expressed there are some hopes, there are some signs of hopes from the new Chinese government. And my question is, do you share that view, and could you elaborate what are possible new positive signs? My second question is linked to His Holiness often expresses that I will not be around forever. So my question is about the succession as the spiritual leader after His Holiness disappears. How do you...
Disappears? Do you really believe in Buddhist mysticism? Ultimate Lama alleviates.
So that was exactly what they say.
Yes.
Because with your system of succession based on reincarnation, it's probably quite a difficult approach, especially if I assume you expect the Chinese to manipulate that succession to the best of their own interest.
Yes.
Yeah, I was a little worried. He's always jovial. That's why at 79 years old, he's still very healthy and robust. He maintains 12, 14-hour schedule, and we are following him. After 1 week, we're exhausted, he goes to the next place. So he always sees hope in others, including in Chinese leadership. Every morning he gets up at 3:30 in the morning, and from 4 to 7 he practices meditation. And the most difficult meditation called Tonglin, give and take. So essentially he meditates and gives love and compassion to enemy and takes hatred from enemy. And then other form of meditation is preparing for his own death. Not disappearance, but death. So he prepares the death scenario when he breathes last and how do you move to Parto and other places. So essentially that's the most difficult form of meditation as far as Buddhism is concerned. But on the other hand, once you overcome your enemy, once you overcome your death, there's nothing to fear. So he's always hopeful, he always sees good in others. As far as Chinese leadership are concerned, at the moment, the ground reality remains harsh. Situation has not improved. In fact, it has gone worse in Tibet. So that's sad. Now, on the other hand, whenever new leaders come, you have to always be hopeful that that person might change a policy on the issue of Tibet. Now, on other issues, so far on Xinjiang and other issues, Chinese government seems to be maintaining hardline policies. Only on Tibet, they're yet to come out. At least Xi Jinping, the president, is yet to come out with a statement as to which side he will lead. So if you say there's hope, that's it. He's yet to say anything. Now there's some stories about, because his father, Li Zhongxun, was very close to late Panchen Lama. So he was very familiar with Tibet. And Li Zhongxun, Xi Jinping's father, is known to be very liberal. We all know Hu Yaobang as the most liberal leader in China. We know. But Xi Zhongxun, the father, was the last man with Hu Yaobang till the end. You know, Hu Yaobang was the one who went to Guangdong, the whole economic reform changed, and then many others. He's the most liberal, and then before Tiananmen Square, he fell from power. We all know that. But Xi Jinping's father was with the most liberal leader of China till the end, and he was also friendly with Panchen Lama. So in that sense, one leader could do something, but given the system we have in China, it's 7 people's leadership, and the infrastructure and the system is very harsh and hardline at the moment. So ground reality is different from what the Chinese leaders could do. Now, as far as the next Dalai Lama is concerned, I think His Holiness has issued a statement in September 2011. He said he will decide at the age of 90 about his successor. Because why each time a journalist or someone comes and says, when you die, what will happen when you die? I'm sure you don't want to face that question on a daily basis. You know, he said, hey, ask me when I'm 90, okay? So postpone it till then. So now at the age of 90, he has also given very clear ways to do select the next successor. Reincarnation, selection, and emanation. Reincarnation, one has to die, then reborn. That's the traditional way. Selection is like the selection of Pope. All the high lamas, top Tibetan lamas will meet and select the next Dalai Lama. Or emanation, which I favor, is while he leaves, he will designate his successor and he becomes the 15th Dalai Lama. So these 3 are also on the table, and I favor the last one. So did I answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. There's a question right there.
Hi, my name is Morten Christiansen. Thank you very much for this introduction. In the period leading up to the Dalai Lama's visit here in Norway a couple of weeks ago, and by the way, I was very embarrassed by our government's decision in that case, and still am. But we could read in the newspapers some people claiming that Tibet prior to the Chinese occupation was a quite repressive country with a theocratic, absolutist government, religious and political government, which exploited its population in almost a feudal kind of system, leading to a very poor and exploited population. And this was, of course, used as an argument against the Dalai Lama. Could you share your views on this story?
That's the Chinese government propaganda. You know, it's a classic colonialist approach. You know, when colonial powers expanded around the world by saying, oh, they are so backward and we have to civilize them, you know. So they didn't have constitution, they have to have constitution. So there's a classic colonialist model of saying the old Tibet was so repressive, so feudal, so slave-oriented system, and Chinese civilization will civilize Tibetan people. Hence, Tibet was called peaceful liberation by the Chinese. So what Tibet had was a traditional system, a conservative system, with monastic and aristocrats as the ruling elite, and the economy, agriculture, and politics was controlled by the ruling elite. So that was a system. Was it an egalitarian system? It was not an egalitarian system. It was a similar system what was prevailing in Mongolia or Bhutan or Nepal or mainly in South Asia. Very similar. Now, if Chinese justification is to be believed, if you follow that logic, okay, Tibet had a traditional system, then Tibet ought to be occupied, right? Then by extension, they should go and occupy Mongolia, they should go and occupy Bhutan, they should occupy Nepal, isn't it? If that's the logic, but why did they stop only in Tibet? That's the justification they gave. But Tibetans did enjoy their fair share of freedom, like any other human being. For example, my father was from a common background in Tibet. And from as far as he was concerned, he didn't feel he was a slave to anyone as such. And the Chinese propaganda documents do come with evidence. They say, oh, we took a delegation who goes to Lhasa to meet a slave, they say, in the historical past. And they said, but they had to drive, 150 kilometers from Lhasa to meet the slave during traditional days. Now, if Chinese government has to drive the delegation, Western delegation, 150 meters to find one slave, that means slavery system was not prevalent, They can find in and around Lhasa only. So do you see my logic? So they do make this kind of evidence and then propagate that Tibet was so backward, they ought to be civilized by the Chinese government. But I think evidence is to the contrary. If that was the case, then Tibetans inside Tibet now, they should be welcoming Chinese government, Chinese policies. They should be happy and content. They should not be praying and worshipping Dalai Lama. They should remain very faithful to the Communist Party instead of Dalai Lama. So that's why I always, when I have debate with Chinese, I always say, if Chinese had to choose between His Holiness Dalai Lama, Tibetans in Tibet had to choose between His Holiness Dalai Lama and Chinese leader, there is no competition. Forget that, even if I put myself in the ballot to Tibetans inside Tibet, and any Chinese guy can come, I'm pretty sure Tibetans will vote for me. Not because they know me, but they would prefer a Tibetan guy than a Chinese guy. So if Chinese government believe in the propaganda, they can have referendum. And let Tibetans Tibet choose, and if they choose Chinese Communist Party and Xi Jinping, hey, that will be the end of the debate. Then I don't have to come here, lose my sleep, and I'll be happily employed at Harvard and enjoy my Starbucks, But that's not the case. And then that's how they justify and come up with these arguments, So there is no basis, actually, yes.
Thank you. There's a question here.
Thank you. My name is Heidi Berg, and first of all, thank you for a very interesting talk. First, a comment on Norwegians' understanding of China, because I think, I used to say, Norway, in Norway we love to hate China. And if you read Norwegian papers and if you follow debates and that, it's always very negative towards China. And I think that's a shame because it's so complex, and China is such a big country with so many issues and difficulties. And now when you were going through the political, the leaders in China and the story, and you say, we all know that. And unfortunately, no, we don't. In Norway, there's not many who actually understand the complexity also within Chinese policy. It's not the old-fashioned or the big one party where there's no dynamics and there's no, there's a lot of complexity also within the Chinese government. And first of all, I think Norway needs to step up in understanding, and if you read Norwegian press and international press, it's much more balanced actually in other media. So that's my, anything to comment on this, we need to read more and understand more of the story and the complexity. And of course, the situation with Tibet is it's extremely challenging, and it's not good. But even with this morning's terrorist attacks in the western provinces of China, it's all in the same picture and all that. And then the Norwegian government not meeting Dalai Lama. We have tried. We know how it feels to be in the cold with the Chinese. And Norway is a small country, insignificant to China in many ways, whereas it's not, China is not insignificant to us. And we have, we have been in the cold with China, and making the relationship even colder by meeting Dalai Lama, is that the right approach if that would bring us out of further dialogue? This is what the Norwegian government has said. too. We'd rather be in dialogue by not being in the cold. I'd like you to comment on that.
Shall I follow the last question first? I've heard this when I go to Denmark a bit. Norway is so small, we can't influence China. On the other hand, we want to normalize relationship with China so that we can influence China. If you cannot influence China, why have a relationship? You want to have a relationship, you want to influence China, then from the very beginning you say, we have no influence whatsoever, so what difference does it make? Then might as well have no relationship, right? So I really don't see the logic. And I say, we are so small, what can we do? Then remain small and don't engage with China. They don't care, and you don't care. So, but they say, no, we have to engage so that we can have dialogue. Then we can influence on the issue of Tibet. But we have heard this many times. Now, let me give you an example. What Norway did is a smaller concession compared to what the British did to China. British gave the mother of all concessions. British India, Russia and China had interest over Tibet, and hence the Great Game. Many historians say that Xinjiang, Tibet and Afghanistan was part of the Great Game. Who will have control over this area for many years? Historically, for more than 100 years. Battles, wars were fought, and Afghanistan is the same residue. It's the consequence of the same Great Game. And so is Tibet is suffering the same fate, because so many imperial power wanted to have control over area. It's continuing. British India at that time maintained China had suzerainty over Tibet, but not sovereignty. In simple words, what it's saying is China has claim over Tibet, but no control over Tibet. And for whatever reason, this suzerainty is a new word they coined, and they maintained it for more than 100 years. China has suzerainty over Tibet, but no sovereignty. You know. But then in 2008, again Britain was in cold, as you said, there was a cold. So we want to normalize relationship with China and give mother of all concessions. And then said Great Britain said, now China has sovereignty over Tibet. And when Tibetans protested, we were told the same thing, no, we want to have dialogue with China so that we can help you. And we can also help China. And then now, just a few years ago, David Cameron met with His Holiness Dalai Lama. And Britain went back to the freezer, cold. Then after 1 year, again they normalized the relationship. And then David Cameron went to China and said, oh, my meeting with Dalai Lama is a closed chapter, this is a new chapter now. Right? Again, normalized relationship. Then just recently, Great Britain issued a human rights report on China. Again, one paper, one document. Again, it's back in the freezer, it's cold. See, so once you start giving in, they keep asking, and you have to keep giving. So yes, maybe if you follow your logic, that you're absolutely right, Norway cannot influence China, but China will influence you and dictate you. You keep getting influence. That's the choice you have to make. So, where do you end? This is the downward spiral. We have seen so many countries going. So one hand I come here and many Norwegian who love justice and freedom, they come listen to us and then we also share. Sometimes people ask me, are you really sad the Norwegian leaders didn't meet? I said, I'm more sad for Norway than for myself. Because after all, Tibet and Tibetan struggle is my struggle. I have to carry forward our struggle, with or without anyone with me. I have no choice. Then I will do. I've done my part, I've given up my job at Harvard, I'm contributing. My team Tibetans are coming and contributing. We will make our struggle much stronger than now. That we absolutely believe, that we can do and we will keep doing. The choice is for Norway and other countries to be with us or not. If they're not with us, hey, what can I do? I can't say, hey, no Norwegian is coming, so I have to give up. No, I mean, we are rich from a rich civilization, rich history. We are very proud people. We don't fear China. We don't fear Chinese government. Truth is on our side. Justice on our side. We will keep fighting. We will win. That much we know. The choice is whether you want to be with us or not. So that's why this Tibetan struggle is not simply a struggle of 6 million Tibetans. It's a struggle of humanity. It's a struggle of justice. It's a struggle of democracy. It's a struggle of freedom. It's a struggle of what you preach. The question is, do you practice? If you don't, that's a commentary on you. It's not a commentary on us. So that's why I always say, wherever I go, I meet with those who would like to meet. Don't complain about those who don't want to meet. Because given a choice, we do give benefit of the doubt. Given a choice, we want to believe everybody would like to meet. Given a choice, all human beings are good. Really, given a choice, all human beings are good. And we ought to be good. Otherwise, what's the point of existence? You know? So that's what we believe. So now again, you said China is a complex country. It's true. But on Tibet, very simple. Harsh, harsh, and harsh. Again, because you just said Xinjiang, there's a bomb and terrorists, and you are in the same picture. We are not in the same picture. We've been a model movement of non-violence and peace. That's why His Holiness the Dalai Lama was given Nobel Peace Prize 25 years ago. But then after 25 years of practicing and advocating non-violence and peace around the world, perhaps made also Nobel Peace Committee and Nobel Peace Prize more popular around the world, along with Oslo and Norway as well. He comes back after 25 years. Oh yeah, we gave you the award. Yeah, 25 years ago. We met you then, yeah, but now we can't. What did we do wrong? In fact, we did everything that the award expected. Right? Anyway, but again, it's not a commentary on us though. I sincerely feel it's really a commentary on Norwegian people, Denmark people, the Europe people, the international community, really. So that's why when I said I will probably die as a Tibetan, as far as we are concerned, we are absolutely committed. And I say with all sincerity that our day will come and we will make that happen. We want our friends to be with us, that's it. That's their choice.
Well spoken.
Wanting to ask you questions, but first, I think I'll close the list after that if there's no more coming forward. I'd just like to ask you one question that follows up a little. You have been traveling around in the world, visiting other countries, and could you, if you have any stories explaining a little bit the differences, or if there are similarities when you meet other governments, what do they say? What are they supporting, or what are their reactions when you are coming from Tibet, or as a Tibetan minister?
No, I think it varies. Some government leaders are very supportive. I think generally people I've met are very supportive. The only question is in private or in public, formal meeting or informal meeting. So whether it's cafeteria or in the office. So generally I think I do believe human being, as Buddhists we believe everybody has Buddha nature, meaning everybody is potentially Buddha. Everybody has potential Buddha. That's our belief. Every human being is good. We do believe this, so they come under pressure. And for example, the Speaker of the Norwegian Parliament, I met him 2 years ago. He's a good guy, I know. And I had dinner with him, I had conversation with him. But given the constraint, and then one act one way or the other, so you make wrong decisions, and this is sad. So, for example, in India, I meet with Indian ministers, I have better access to Indian government and Indian leadership than anywhere in the world actually. This is not much known. India has done the most for Tibetan people. And someone may always say, oh, if you meet with Dalai Lama, we will suffer. Hey, Dalai Lama lives in India, and he doesn't suffer a bit, as far as China is concerned. Obama met with Dalai Lama 3 times, and so many presidents of America met with Dalai Lama. And there's no, as far as consequences. Because why? They're very clear. They tell Chinese, hey, we're going to meet him, we're going to host him, you will complain, yes, you can shout, but let's get to normal, okay? Once you are consistently clear, other side will also respect you. Once you are consistent, not clear, other side will say, hey, we can nudge him and we can push him, we can trample on him, and then you give a choice. And that's human, right? That's human. You know when that guy, he's tough. I mean, don't even go near him. Then you'll always think he's tough, and accordingly you behave. And say, hey, he's pushover, let's go push him a bit. And then you can push. So similarly, wherever I've traveled, generally very well, and I've met with, for example, the Speaker of US Congress, the Majority Leader of US Senate, and Senate Majority Leader, and they all come and they say, every morning they say, hey, your friend called. What happened? Well, the Chinese embassy called complaining about our meeting. I said, what did you do? I said, thank you very much for the complaint. They keep down the phone and they keep meeting, you know. So that way, I think it all depends where I go. But generally, it has been positive, generally positive. So no complaints as such, yes.
Thank you. There's a question there.
I'm curious about, there was an incident in Vietnam, demonstration regarding this oil rig in distributed waters, if I recall correctly. I'm curious, there's a growing list of countries getting in the interest sphere of Chinese interest, to put it like that. Could talks among small countries in that kind of situations occur, do you think?
Why it occurred?
Could it occur? Small countries, which, to put it general, are in a similar situation, getting in the interest sphere.
Yes.
Myanmar, you could maybe say that.
Indonesia, Philippines,
Yeah,
so many countries, Japan.
Could talks among those
Yes, I think
countries
so, yes.
be of any, what do you think?
Now, I think as per media reports, it seems many countries are talking among themselves, and then the whole US-Asia pivot is considered forming alliance with Asian countries, and some of the ASEAN, you know, through that. So there's a lot of conversation happening among all the neighboring countries of China as to how China is behaving, how should we respond to that. Now I must make one issue also, because you mentioned Xinjiang, recently the bombing case of Xinjiang. Now they are labeled terrorists. But then if you study the genesis of protest in Xinjiang, you have to go all the way back to 1940s and 50s, how all this happened. And to have one incident labeled them terrorists, yes, is it violence? Absolutely, they bombed, it's violence. But how it came about, we have to know. So hence Tibetans also, as I said, you asked a very tough question, and thanks for being, for very big supportive of the issue of Tibet, but asking a tough question on self-immolation. How it came about, one should know, right? There was a peaceful demonstration which is not allowed. And then there's other form of demonstration which is not allowed, harshly cracked down. And one protest leads to another, then you see self-immolation. Then everybody says, oh, this is very complex, this is very tough. It is tough, it's complex, but how it came about? Who is forcing it? What is causing it? I think it's equally important to know than the apparent act itself. Now, because you asked how you will receive, I was going to add one thing. His Holiness Dalai Lama travels around the world, and nowadays who are his enthusiastic audience? Mainland Chinese people. This is not known. Actually, Dharamsala is a funny place. Actually, if you come to Dharamsala, you will see many Chinese coming there. Many Chinese Buddhists come there. And all thing about China is that China is the largest Buddhist country in the world. Officially, there are 300 million Buddhists in China. Right? And then unofficially, some say 400 plus also. Now, in January 2012, His Holiness Dalai Lama was giving a Kala Chakra teaching. It's the highest form of Buddhist teaching. And there were 10,000 from Tibet who managed to escape and who managed to get some documents, come to Bodh Gaya, the place where Buddha attained his enlightenment. 10,000 of them one side. Right in front of him were 1,100 mainland Chinese from China. 1,100 of them. And altogether, anywhere from 300,000 to 400,000 people from around the world. So it's a 2 weeks long teaching. So can you imagine 10,000 from Tibet and 1,100 from China, and then maybe 80 or 90,000 Tibetans from around the world, and then maybe 200 plus thousand from Westerners and Mongolians and Russians around the world. 2 weeks, no violence. And then I recently met some Chinese who had come to Dharamsala for teaching, and then over dinner, and asked them, where are you going next? So from Dharamsala, they're going to Hong Kong because they have to kind of hide their visa. From Hong Kong, they're going to Nanjing, Beijing, and Shanghai. And they are managing directors and vice presidents of multinational companies working in China. So the elite, very highly educated, are Buddhists, that they come to Dharamsala, seek teaching, and go back. So when people of China are receiving His Holiness Dalai Lama that way, So that's why we say we are so confident. I mean, not so confident, but we are firmly we believe in ourselves is that so many Chinese are with us in this. The rest of the world should be. If not, that's their choice, but nonetheless, our cause is right. That's how we think. So even when I was at Harvard for 16 years, I organized 7 major conferences between Chinese scholars and Tibetan scholars. So Chinese scholars from top universities in China, from Beijing University and Hvordan and Academy of Social Science, and then in fact Vice President of Tibet University in Lhasa, they all came to my conference. So we have track record of having dialogue with them. In that sense, I think the international community should be supporting what Chinese people, Chinese scholars want to do, and Tibetans would like to do. Thank you.
Yes, I think we do the last questions in succession. So first you, and then afterwards you.
Thank you. I'm Gunnar Gjerde. You mentioned that your line with China is to take the middle way. And it would be interesting if you could expand. You say you would not want secession with China, but you would like to have autonomy within China. But what are your thoughts about what kind of relationship would you have then? What kind of governance with China should you have to have an autonomy within China?
Yes.
We'll do both questions first. This was a question about the autonomy model, and then there's some of the...
First, my name is Elizabeth Berge, and I want to welcome you to Norway. You mentioned in your speech about the topics of maybe the next world war would be the fight for water. And I wonder if you could please share your insights regarding the Chinese dam projects that's been making place in the Mekong River, the Brahmaputra and some rivers, and the impact it has for Asia.
Oh, yes.
So on that.
This is a question about the Chinese dam project. And before you finish, so I'll let you finish soon, there's a small commentary again from Mr. Shensu.
Oh, thanks so much. It's not a small question, so I think. But what you're speaking about is about the history. But it's very important to understand the way future and this geopolitical debate you are speaking about is very interesting also for Norway to understand this, and the water question is very important, the environmental issues to understand this way, and also for Norway to understand how we as a small country can work with you in cooperation with other small countries to have the dialogue to point out this way in the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, your question about damming of rivers. Traditionally, historically, Tibet has been the guardian of the Tibetan plateau. We respected the natural flow of rivers. So we let rivers flow on its own course and shared, in that sense, in a natural setting, water with all our neighbors. Now with the damming, in some rivers, even 20 dams per river, is affecting the natural flow of rivers and affecting the lives of millions of people who survive on fishery and agriculture downstream. Once you dam, you control river, right? Then you control the flow of rivers as well. And then there has geopolitical value to it, because if you don't let water go when it's needed for farmers, and then when you let water go when it's not needed and create floods, it's very dangerous. So neighboring countries are very nervous as to the damming of rivers. Unfortunately, Chinese companies are damming 10, 20 dams per river to generate hydropower. So whether they are engineerically built in a sound way or not, or it's a big question mark. So when there are cracks, when the flood happens, that's very dangerous. They're building dams to generate hydropower, make money. Once they make money, they quickly disappear. So that's a very scary scenario. So India is very nervous. All the neighboring countries are very nervous. Unfortunately, this is keenly watched by many environmentalists, because the Tibet plateau is so fragile and so important for all the neighboring countries, affecting perhaps 2 billion people. So it's something to watch out for. Now, as far as your question is concerned, what we seek is genuine autonomy within China, within Chinese laws, meaning what is allowed as per Chinese laws, will amount to autonomy. In that sense, with Han Chinese and other people are naturally protected because we are still within Chinese constitution. So in that sense, we should not have much problem. Having said that, also, historically for hundreds of years, Tibetans and Chinese have lived side by side for hundreds of years, peacefully, as good neighbors. We had some problems when there was invasion from their side, from our side, but somehow we have found a way to live with each other. For example, I give the example of Chokhang Temple. It's the holiest shrine in the Tibetan Buddhist world. But actually, Chokhang Temple in Lhasa has a statue of Buddha brought by Chinese princess from China. Now, can you imagine a Chinese statue is the holiest statue for Tibetans, brought by a Chinese woman, and the statue is on the first floor and the woman is on the second floor. Even today, Tibetans go there, do prostration, pray to the temple and to that statue and to the woman. So if Tibetans had inherent hatred or resentment towards Chinese, first thing they should do is boycott that Chinese statue and boycott the woman. But no, Tibetans keep, paying the respect, keep paying respect. But now, Chokhang Temple is turned into almost a police station, a prison. If you go to Chokhang Temple, you will see sharpshooters looking down at you, binoculars from the side. There's a secret rooms where they're watching from CCTV people around. And Chinese also, when they come, you'll see if you go as a tourist, we go clockwise. There's a Tibetan Buddhist way of rotating around temple. They go anti-clockwise. Hey, Tibetans are paying respect to the Chinese statue and Chinese woman, and you showing disrespect to yourself? It's a kind of provocation. So even at that level. Having said that, there are many Buddhist Chinese who also do clockwise, and then. So I really don't see any problem as such, because historically we never had any problem as such, and we will continue to have, workable relationship with Chinese. That I really don't see. Now, is that all? And then, right. So your final question on what Norway can do, please don't say you're a small country. You are a big country as far as your foreign reserve is concerned. Last time when I checked, it's $860-some billion, almost $1 trillion foreign reserve. You are the least dependent on any country, far less than China, maybe except for salmon, which is so good, which will be bought by different countries in the world anyways, By selling salmon, you'll get a couple of $1 million, but you have $860 billion sovereign fund. And if Norway cannot take a stand, which is economically, which has every year, it's I think lucky to be a member of parliament, Norwegian parliament, because you have 10% surplus every year. And how to allocate the surplus is the debate. And the rest of the world, how to deal with this 30% or 50% deficit in the budget is a headache, So I think Norwegian people and Norway can do a lot and take a principled stand. And then, you can, we have Norwegian Tibet Committee. If you're interested, you can join, you can support. And whenever His Holiness Dalai Lama come to show up in good number. And whenever you come, if you show up, I'll appreciate. If you don't show up, no complaints. Don't ever feel guilty. Hey, should I go or not? Well, last time when I went, he looked at me very carefully. He must be recognizing me. No guilt at all. Just show up if you want to. Don't show up, no complaints. But I'll keep coming back to Oslo and meet our old friends and be with us. You can do a lot. And the Norwegian people showed it through their love. And by coming this morning as well, it's Thursday morning, I know time is precious, but you all traveled here to listen to whatever I have to say, not much, but whatever I have to say, that is a demonstration of your support. Not me as an individual, I'm just an ordinary guy. When I finish my term, I'm an ordinary person. But your support is for Tibet and Tibetan people. That will be appreciated and that will be recorded in our history when the success story comes, and it will come. Till then, enjoy yourself in a life you have to live. Till then, remember and pray for Tibet from time to time. Thank you.